Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to PyCon APEC 2022 Young Inspirers session. Hope you will enjoy this wonderful and informative event. The first session is about to start. Be aware that there is a collaborating page where we can write and share thoughts during the session. Join this part by scanning the QR code on the left-hand side. This is the rundown for day 1. The whole event will be scheduled 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. The first session will be scheduled 2 p.m. to 2:50 p.m. Also, there's a Slido link on the left-hand side for asking questions to the speaker. So without further ado, let's welcome our first speaker, Amos Jin.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Young Inspire section of PyCon APEC 2022. I'm Cecilia Lee. I'm the host of this section. Today we have a special guest, Amos Jin from Hong Kong. And Amos will share us his journey of learning Python. Hi Amos.
Hi Cecilia.
Hi, can you introduce yourself?
So I'm a Form 3 student from Hong Kong studying at LaSalle College who has been learning programming since primary 4.
Okay, can you tell us why do you want to learn Python?
I wanted to learn Python because it was useful and fun, and it seemed like an easy to learn language and to me it was a good starting point. It was also quite useful in data science, machine learning, and other fields, and most of all, it was just because it was very fun to learn something new that is kind of easy and also useful.
Yes, Python is fun and useful. And how do you start your journey of learning Python?
I started my journey of learning Python by attending a workshop from Hour of Code Hong Kong. I attended many of their workshops and talks, which introduced Python as well as other programming knowledge to me, and I also bought some books and used some online platforms and resources to learn Python.
So can you tell us what kind of organization is the Hour of Code?
The Hour of Code Hong Kong is a non-profit organization that aims to introduce the basics of programming in 1-hour workshops and talks.
So what kind of resource does the Hour of Code provide?
They provided online platforms and book recommendations, as well as workshops on all sorts of STEM topics that are all free. I learned of 2 very useful platforms, code.org and Grok Learning from them, both of which have helped me a lot on my journey of learning Python.
So can you introduce us what is code.org?
Code.org is kind of like a platform for beginners to learn programming and computational thinking. They provide courses on Python, Blockly, and other languages, and they use a mostly visual way of learning. They show you your progress with different graphics and little games that you can try to learn programming from. And I think that it's very good for children and beginners like myself when I started out in primary 4.
So it sounds very fun. Can you introduce us what is Grok Learning?
For Grok Learning, it takes a sort of different approach to teaching, as it uses a more text-based kind of teaching. It mainly teaches Python, but it also offers courses on JavaScript as well as other languages and and some other cybersecurity as well as other STEM topics. They offer courses which have some different challenges and questions in them that for you to practice as well as to learn at the same time.
Mhm. So besides these two websites, do you recommend any other learning resource?
I also recommend the documentations and on different modules and packages, which can be found on docs.python.org, as well as Stack Overflow for debugging and general programming help. In addition, W3 Schools is also quite a nice platform for you to learn the syntax of different languages.
Hmm. I'm very impressed that you use Stack Overflow too, because it's also a very useful website which usually programmers use every day. And do you try to add some question in Stack Overflow?
Personally, I haven't asked any questions on Stack Overflow, but because most of the time I can just search for my question on Stack Overflow, and it's already been asked and answered. So I haven't really had the need to actually ask them yet.
Yeah, I agree that there is a many answer to our question on Stack Overflow. And can you tell us how do you practice your programming skill and the problem solving skill?
I mainly practice them by completing exercises on the learning platforms I mentioned, as well as
Mhm.
by doing mini projects when I started out. Usually, I follow instructions in books and or create my own projects from the things I've learned in the workshops from the Out of Code Hong Kong. In addition, I also participate in competitive programming, and I mainly do this by practicing on Code Forces and the HKY platform. For competitive programming, however, I use mostly C++, but also Python sometimes. I also
About? Sure. Yeah, I guess.
programming competitions such as the HKY, the SCIC, which is the Hong Kong Secondary Schools Software Development Invitational Contest, and the SSCC, which is the Hong Kong Secondary School Coding Challenge.
So do you do some fun mini project? Do you want to share one of it with us?
I don't think I have the files on my computer right now, I, in my opinion, uh, the most fun mini projects are probably the first ones that I've completed. If I recall correctly, the first one that I've completed are with Python and the module Turtle.
Mhm.
I learned of Turtle from Out of Code Hong Kong, and yeah, if I recall correctly, I made my first mini project as a sort of game. I don't exactly remember what it was, but it was the most fun, and it was the most fun to me because it was like the first time I've accomplished something with a newly learned language,
Mhm.
Python.
Mhm. Yeah, sometimes the first one is the most impressed one. Yeah. So, what do you learn from your experience in the Hong Kong Olympiad in Informatics, aka HKOI?
From competitive programming competitions such as the HUI, I mainly learn about computational thinking and problem-solving skills, as well as some computer science knowledge about algorithms, data structures, graph theory, etc.
Mhm.
And those are pretty useful because I'm also trying to pursue I might also pursue a CS degree in university. I'm aiming to pursue a CS degree in university as well as a career aimed at software development. So I think these will be very useful for my career and for my further studying.
Mhm. That's nice. You think about career. It's a little bit early, but I think it's a very good try. And you mentioned that you are interested in the learning machine learning and the data science. can you tell us why do you want to learn machine learning and data science?
It seemed interesting and it was quite a new thing. So also it had a lot of practical uses in every field. So I want to learn about it and try to use it to uh, kind of make something that benefits my society and just try to experiment with it mostly because it seemed really, really interesting.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah. So can you tell us how do you set up your learning goal?
I set my learning goals by trying to get knowledge on one specific topic and to create something with it, like a mini project with it, or complete exercises on it if I'm learning about algorithm. For example, if I'm learning about an algorithm, I'll try to complete tasks on code forces on it and and on the HAY platform. And the selected topic is mostly based on what interests me or what is related to the things that I've recently learned.
Mhm. So can you share what's your plan for your learning path?
So my current goal is to learn how to use TensorFlow Keras and to create a neural network for object recognition because I think that mainly because it seemed like a good path for beginners to like me to learn about machine learning.
Mhm. So do you start to learning TensorFlow?
I started learning about TensorFlow when I attended a course from HKAGE, which introduced TensorFlow and mainly TensorFlow Keras and how to create a convoluted neural network with it. I'm still not. I can't say that I'm very familiar with it, but I'll try to learn more about it. Given that the internet has lots and lots of resources, and
Mhm,
I'll try to make something about object recognition, which
mhm.
which is which from the research I've done online is a good starting point for beginners like me. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a great start. It's a great way to start learning machine learning. And so for our audience today, and can you give some advice to the audience and what advice will you give?
Firstly, try to concentrate on one topic or go at a time, and don't be distracted. This when you get distracted, like I've done when I started out, it it takes a toll on your efficiency, and you end up not learning anything at all, and you may forget about the things that you're learning when you try to focus on too many topics and goals at a time. And also make good use of online platforms such as Grok Learning, W3 Schools, docs.python.org, and Stack Overflow. And don't be afraid to ask questions or search or look up answers. As I think that it is also part of the asking is also part of the learning process. And also joining competitions may also help. I recommend Olympiads and competitive programming competitions for learning about actual algorithms and computational thinking. And for beginners, I suggest competitions like Coder C and the NCSS Challenge from Grok Learning, which also trains computational thinking, and they also provide you with more knowledge on the syntax and the workings of different languages, mostly Python. And
Mhm.
also, you can try finding friends who are also learning or who are also interested to learn and share resources and hold discussions with one another so that you can grow with one another and obtain more resources. And you can also ask one another questions that you've encountered. And sometimes they may even solve them better than resources online. And finally, try to take some breaks in between learning.
It's great to learn with friends and community. And May us know that what is the biggest challenge that you ever face when you're learning Python?
So the biggest challenge that I faced when I started out learning Python was that when I started, it was really unfamiliar to me. And first off, the syntax to me was really unfamiliar. So I had to take notes of what I had learned, and I at start I oftentimes don't know why my code doesn't work or why it had bugs in them, and I
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes have to Google a lot of resource to have to Google a lot, and I end up getting kind of frustrated when I don't get when I still don't get why my code doesn't work. However, uh, with more time and practice and patience, this actually gets better because over time I've kind of learned syntax by experience from experience, and also I've kind of learned how to think like a computer does, like how to think logically and kind of what each line means. So that's one of the challenges that I face. And the second challenge that I would say is the biggest challenge when I've started learning Python is the vast amount of resources and topics out there. I wanted to almost explore everything at once, but yeah, that's impossible. That's really impossible. You can't focus on too many things at once. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I ended up not learning much about everything when I started out. And yes, I eventually I eventually knew that I should probably focus on one module or one algorithm or one syntax that I'm learning, and not to focus on like 10 or 5 or 6 different topics at the same time, that was as that actually affects how your efficiency instead of helping you.
Mm-hmm. So, since you already learned Python for 6 to 7 years, and what is the difference between how you code today and how you code 7 years ago?
uh, when I coded 7 years ago, I don't really know how my code would run, and I was just trying to experiment with stuff, and I really wasn't familiar with the syntax and with all the logic and stuff. Uh, I would say that I'm starting to understand. I kind of understand what each line means now, but there the thing the thing that I think stayed the same is my curiosity and how I would look up many different things when I was coding. For example, when I need to use a module, I 7 years ago I would look up the documentation, and nowadays I will still look up the documentation. So that is one similarity, and I would say that the main difference is that now I kind of know what I'm trying to do, whereas 7 years ago I'm still trying to experiment. 7 years ago I was mostly experimenting, and I didn't know the logics behind each line.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And thanks, Amos. Thank you for your sharing. I believe that it will inspire many young people. And thanks for your time. Please
Thank you.
join APEC. Please join Python APEC 2022. It will hold in September 3rd and 4th. Thanks for your time.
Okay, thank you, Cecilia.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for your attention. I think you must have some thoughts or question about the interview, and you can fill in your question at Slido. There's some link of Slido in the information column, and you can fill your question at the Slido. We have our speaker, Amos, here. Hi, Amos.
Hello.
And yeah, so we can see some questions. Are you ready to answer those questions?
Yes.
Okay, let's answer the questions about the audience. First question is, how would you see Python? Would it still be a popular programming language in the near future? How do you think?
So I think Python will still be a very popular programming language because firstly, the syntax is pretty easy to understand, and I think that it also has a lot of usage in data science and in many other fields such as machine learning. There are many packages that support using Python that are in those fields. So I guess Python will still be a very popular language in the near future.
Yes. Okay, next question. What is the, I think that is we answer in the interview. And yes, next question. And could you introduce TensorFlow application you are interested in?
So I'm interested in trying to use TensorFlow for object recognition.
Mhm.
Object recognition mainly, and I'm still trying to learn how to use the package and yeah. So yes, mainly object recognition and detection.
Mhm. Okay, so next question. And besides Python, which language are you interested in learning?
As I've mentioned in the interview, I participate in competitive programming. So C++ is a language that I use a lot,
Mhm.
and in addition, I'm also trying to learn web development, and so I've learned a little bit of JavaScript, not a lot, but a little bit. And yeah, so mainly C++ and JavaScript.
Hmm. Okay. So for the first question, what is the biggest challenge you will face in the journey of learning Python?
So the biggest challenge I think is uh when I encounter a problem like a bug or something
Mhm.
that I can't really see why the code has failed, and that there are no available answers to that exact error online. So for that challenge, I mainly have to try out different solutions, like different uh uh if there are no resources available, if there are no resources directly related to the error I faced, then I'll just try random things or just try something that is very similar until I get the result that I would like. Or I can try searching for uh, similar uh, alternatives to that line that has the error. And I can simply replace the line with another similar line that does the same thing if I really can't figure out where the error is in that line or in that part of the code.
Mhm. Okay. So next question, how do you balance your studies, learning Python and life?
So uh, Python, like I mainly learn Python in my free time,
Mhm.
and and of course studying is important, and yeah, I know this as well because uh I'm actually in the middle of my exams right now, and so I have a bit less time for learning Python, and I put more time into studying. But in like normal school days or holidays, I put more time into learning Python and doing other hobbies instead of studying. So it's kind of like a time allocation. Like
Mhm.
if like during exam periods or near exams, I'll allocate more time to studying, and in other times allocate more time to learning Python.
Mhm. Thank you. And the next question, I'm not sure, do we already answer this? What application do you want to use TensorFlow in the future?
Uh, as I've said, object recognition and detection mainly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Next question. What is your favorite type of programming in computational programming? Competitive programming. Sorry.
Okay, so I can't really say that I have a favorite, but like I'm really interested in I really like graph and data structure problems because like
Mm-hmm.
I know quite a bit of algorithms involving graphs and data structures, and I feel like they are really challenging. So I like those types of questions. But as for a favorite type of problem, I don't really have a favorite actually.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, I see. And then the next question, and also the last question. Uh, I think maybe we already answered it, but I will read the answer. Read the question again. What advice would you give advice to beginners who want to get started in competitive programming that would like to use Python?
For competitive programming, if you're thinking of joining competitions, it's actually not really recommended that you use Python because when compared to programs, other languages such as C++, Python is a bit slow. But in terms of string processing and other data structures and processing, Python actually has some advantages, though it might be a bit slow. I think you can try learning C++ first, and you can maybe use Python for questions that involve a lot of data or string processing, because Python actually is actually better at string or data processing, but it's a bit slower than other languages.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Amos. I think we answer all the question about the audience, and thanks for the question asked by audience. And our next talk will start at 3 p.m. So we will have a short break, and we will see you in 3 p.m. Thanks, Amos.
Thank you, Cecilia.
Okay, bye-bye.
Welcome back. The second session is about to start. Be aware that there is a collab writing page where we can write notes and share thoughts during the session. Join this part by scanning the QR code on the left-hand side. The second session will be scheduled 3 p.m. to 3:50. Also, there's a Slido link on the left-hand side for asking questions to the speaker. So without further ado, let's welcome the second speaker, Carl John Viñas. Hello, everybody. Welcome to PyCon APAC 2022's Young Inspirers event. My name is Wei Han. I'll be the host of this session. Today, we have a very special guest all the way from the Philippines. His name is Carl John Viñas. He's been one of the core organizers of the Programmers Guild. He's also volunteering at the Python Philippines, and he's currently a university student. And we believe that his story is going to inspire a lot of people, especially students at around his age. And he's going to share with us about his journey in programming, his journey in Python, and his journey in a lot of tech communities. So without further ado, let's welcome Carl John Viñas.
Hello everyone. It's very great to be here. Hopefully, I guess I can help everybody gain a good experience or some notable stuff that they might want to hear about. So yeah, hopefully, I guess they can hear very good stories, quirky adventures, on how I would term it. But yeah, I guess all I can say is I'm really happy to be here, and yeah, hopefully I can just give like a good story to everyone through this experience.
Nice. We're very excited to have you here, and we really appreciate that you accepted our invitation. Can you sort of briefly introduce yourself a little bit more, cover some of the parts that I probably didn't talk about?
Sure. I guess I can just like give it like a brief introduction of myself. But yeah, I'm Carl. So I usually call myself as a stingy developer. So what I mean by that is I'm the kind of developer that likes to perform solutions, good solutions, like just through using very available open source tools. So that's my, I guess, good quirky stuff that I would love to do. So I just really just like love doing open source stuff, and it's just cool when you think about it that you can just like do projects for free. Yeah. But other than that, I'm just like a university student studying computer science. So you usually see me doing that. But other than that, if I'm not in university stuff, I'll be working in geospatial projects. So that's my part-time work for now. So officially at the industry, I do geospatial-based applications, from crunching to the actual app itself. And when I'm not doing that, I'm just working on tech communities like the Programmers Guild in Python Philippines. And when I'm also not doing that, I usually just work on, I'm just going back to my quirky projects that are most of the time bad, but some of them are good. So, and yeah, some of them are good social impact projects. And it initially started as a quirky project. Yeah.
Nice. I love how you started with like introducing you as someone who works on these quirky projects, and then moved to other stuff like university student, part-time developer in geospatial applications. I love that. Thank you. So it seems like you've came a long way, and programming is such a big part of your life. You're doing computer science studies. You're working part-time. You're working on all kinds of different projects. You're working on tech communities. So I'm kind of curious, how did you get started with programming? How was your journey like that? Can you share with us about it?
Sure. Well, initially, I started learning programming already before I got into university. So I at least like have a very small knowledge from there. But funny enough, my language wasn't really Python. My first language, it was actually C. Since it was actually being taught at my previous school at that time. And it was, I guess, in some ways more difficult since I was not really like familiar with programming, and I was like just very arduous journey for me. And it really was not that, I guess, great at the start, since I really did not have like a good idea on how I can use C in like real world stuff. Like it's mostly in the low level languages type of stuff. But yeah, after that I tried exploring. Like I thought to myself, maybe it's not me. Maybe it's not the language, maybe it's me. So I tried exploring other languages, and that's where I came into Python, and wow, it really just astounded me how simple it was. So what I loved about it at that time was it was so simple to get started into a project, and the syntax in itself is very simple. So it really was not that hard for me to learn it. And yeah, after that, I just started working on so many stuff so easily that I was just so fascinated about it. But yeah, I do know that underneath it, like it's very complex and somewhat confusing, the package management behind it. But yeah, other than that, it's actually very fun that I can just like type a few commands and get started on my new project. And that's how it really helped me learn programming faster than my initial experience. So yeah, if I were to travel back in time, I guess I would tell myself to, or my previous self, is to stop using C and just like use Python right now, since that would increase my proficiency faster than I initially started. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, and I heard you talking about how simple it is to learn Python, and I was reading about the projects that you built, and I could sort of quickly figure out that a lot of these projects they're really based around using Python. You're able to build projects that are for other people who is not professional programmers, who don't know how to program, and also it's very easy for people in other fields to learn it. And I absolutely love that facet about Python. So I'm kind of curious, can you share with us about some of the projects that you've built? Because I thought those are very interesting. It sort of impacted a lot other people's lives. Can you share with us?
Sure. I would love to share about my projects. So actually, one of my first projects was what I call, I guess, a simple Python filter. So it's really just like, I guess, how you would imagine pandas. So at that time, as a student, that's actually my first Python project. I really didn't have an idea that pandas existed. So like I initially builded small projects for myself, and I used that simple Python data filter for the purpose of trying to investigate people's thoughts on regards to the like COVID at that time. That was like a last year ago. So that's actually one of my most first Python project, or the most recent one where it's actually a bigger one. But the more simple ones, or one of the actually first Python project that I started was really just like a simple script where I can actually analyze what was the summary of a previous message that I read. So that was the initial project that I worked on. It was like a very simple thing where you can just like take random words from a snippet of words. So that was the initial thing that I wanted to do. I think it was for assignment or something. So those are some of the more useful ones that I did. And some of the more quirky and horrible ones was, let's give one more example of that, was I made like a small Valentine's card generator for Valentine's at that time. So yeah, so aside from quirky projects, I was also working on random projects in relation to Valentine's. So at that time, we have like a small event at our school celebrating Valentine's. Um, and I think one of the other organizations in our university had like a request where comp sci students, or students that are familiar with programming, should make projects in relation to programming for Valentine's. So of course, like the initial thoughts was, of course, make like a small program or project for your loved one. Yeah, like that will be the initial thing to do in Valentine's. But at that time, I really didn't have like a Valentine's to begin with. So what I decided was to make like a Valentine's card generator for people's Valentines at that time. So for their loved ones, like they can make their own ones. But the twist that I added that was a bit Python related, aside from the actual card generator, was the face AI that I initially modified. So there was the initial purpose of that AI was to generate images based on words. So after you type a word, the AI tried to guess what image that was and tried to combine an abstract painting with the painting that the AI generated. So what I did was, so I took the AI for merging the abstract painting to from that two AIs, and I use only the abstract AI generating thing to merge it from another code that I made, where it takes a face of your loved one and tries to convert it into a sketch and merge that into two, which resulted in like a abstract painting of your loved one, and attach that to the card generator or to the card itself. So it looked good. Like in a way, you can generate Valentine's cards for your loved ones with a modified abstract painting of their face, and it was somewhat cool. But yeah, I think everybody was like really just laughing about the reality that because I didn't have a Valentine's, I made like a Valentine's good card generator for everyone's Valentine's, and it's a bit sad now that I think about it. But it was a quirky project at that time. But yeah, so that's usually the theme of my projects. It's usually just either useful or just quirky or sad. So so that, yeah, like that's the usual theme for it. Yeah.
Nice. Cool. Yeah, actually, I've seen some of the pictures that you generated with that AI Valentine's card generator. Those are actually very legit. That's a lot about the projects that you've built. The other part of the things that you've been working on a lot is the communities. So you are sort of one of the founders of the Programmers Guild, and you've been a core organizer ever since. Can you tell us a little bit more about this organization? How did this organization come along? What's the story behind it?
Sure. I guess if I were to talk about the story, I think I need to go back a bit on the projects part. So, actually, the organizations or how I was able to participate in these organizations and make the Programmers Guild actually started from a Python project, which is kind of cool. So yeah, I guess it initially started when like what as I was talking about a bit later was just a small Python script that I did. So because I showed that to some people, like I guess I was a bit of a child back then. Like I really just wanted to show how some of my simple things work. So like I was so astounded by the ability of like a Python programming language being able to analyze a lot of text and get like some words in these paragraph. So I showed it to people, and they were talking about how maybe it would be good if we expound the audience, have more people talk about the Programmers Guild. And yeah, it just started from there. And we started wanting to make like an organization about programming. And then like people from university started suggesting that we should join university competitions. And that's when we thought of like building an organization which surrounds about talking about programming or competitive programming. So that's how it initially started. It really was just from a very random Python project. And then after that, I started developing the Programmers Guild together with the other co-founders. And yeah, it was just like a huge organization about different programming related stuff and competitive programming or simple competitions in relation to programming. So we joined competitions, we did some small Python related activities, we did some small programming related or general programming related activities. And one of these events was the recent one was actually called Rekindle. So the or Reconnect Rekindle, I think was the full name. But the concept was just about how we would love to make it so that different students or different professionals can see how programming is such or how programming can be from different related fields and from different passions. So like for the first day, we showcase how programming can be used in cybersecurity, in research, in data science. And it was really just a way for us to showcase that you can rekindle your passion from programming, and like programming in itself helps you rekindle your passion, whatever it is, even if it's a bit unrelated to programming. Since I think that's the idea that I want to tell when we made the event, where we can make it so that programming supports your passion in a way. And another event where we organized was a collaboration with Python Philippines. And I think that's where we started connecting at that time, since at the time our organization wanted to showcase our event or showcase programming in a bigger audience. So we thought to ourselves to how we can interconnect or share with more people different experiences. So at that time, since Python was something we were a bit interested in, and we had like a limited idea on how big Python is. So that's the time that we decided to collaborate with Philippines, and they were very kind enough to provide speakers for us at that time, and they were talking about Python related stuff. So the first day we were talking about how Python can be used simply, how to get started in Python, and then in the following days we talked about its more specialized fields like web development and other stuff. And at the final day, I think we were just talking about how cool tech communities are. And look at me now. I'm about to talk about something like that as well. So yeah, it really just started from different ideas collaborating, and yeah, that's how we started the Python, or how it started from a small Python project to an organization that talks about programming and competitions, and to now making different events in relation to programming. So, and yeah, it just started from an initial thought of wanting to expound Python to a bigger audience, and yeah, that's how we met Python Philippines. And now I'm volunteering at my spare time in Python Philippines. Yeah.
That's really awesome. Yeah, it's really amazing how you're organizing these events and sort of bridge the students at universities to bridge people from people who are not knowing how to program to actually know how to program, and also from students to the real world. That's really amazing. You talked about Python Philippines. Can you tell us a little bit more about what was it like to be a volunteer at Python Philippines, and what you do there?
Sure. So yeah, actually, I just got started into being a volunteer. So I think for the last 3 years for the last 3 years previously, I was actually just mostly working on the Programmers Guild. So yeah, and that's where we made the two events. We competed in different competitions. But I guess recently the most work that I did as a volunteer was to be as a host in one of their latest events called Work from Home Pythonista. And yeah, oh my God, the resurgence. But yeah, that was one of the things that I did as a volunteer. So I was an host for their latest episode. So for context, Work from Home Pythonista is simply just an event or a series of webinars where we talked about how different or how Pythonistas do their work from home setup, or what they usually do on their homes as they work. And yeah, I just find it very, so that's why I got like an awe moment. Was I remembered like a previous episode in that event. I think it was the second episode or something, where they talked about how a data scientist can also be working at the North Pole, or at the North Pole. So, and I was just like astounded how big Python can really be used in almost any context. So yeah, like the idea of a data scientist working at the North Pole and using like some Python related libraries there, and it just made me remember again that we have like code in the North Pole sitting for storage or for future purposes. And yeah, and I guess for my hosting experience, uh, what I in what I was a host for that episode was another engineer, where he talks more about the different experiences that he had and the work from home setup that he did. And yeah, it was an interesting experience, since at the time I was able to expound better my horizons and better understand how diverse people can be in using Python. And yeah, that gave me the idea that almost anyone can use Python, and that's amazing. Like, even if you're just a simple person, well, or like even if you're just not a non-coder, or not even using Python for like bigger things in work, you can use Python for like some of the stuff that they're working on, or just for simple automation. So like for me, I used Python for quirky projects on random ideas that I thought of, like transforming your face into abstract painting, I guess. And like I know some people as well that aside from using it from or the more uncommon ones where they use it at the North Pole, some of the more common ones where they can automate them at their homes or just making simple hardware projects that you're interested in. So I'm really amazed by how you can use Python in just like literally everything, or you can almost use it in generally everything. So that's why it's called a general purpose language. And yeah, that helps me a lot since you can just like use Python literally if you wanted to. So yeah, that's very cool in my experience. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really amazing. Yeah, I love that facet about Python, and I love this is something that is invaluable about these tech communities. It's where you meet all these people who are using something that you also use to build something that you don't expect to be to use it to be building. How did your life sort of change after participating in these tech communities? Were there anything significantly different before you participate in these communities and after? And what sort of fascinates you about these communities? Because you spend so much time on it. Yeah, what fascinates you about it?
Yeah. I would love to share about that. Tech communities in itself was, I guess, something that I would have told my previous self or when I was getting started. Since I think the biggest thing that helped me get started in Python was the idea of being able to use it in almost anything or being able to use it simply in anything and being able to get started at it very simply. So yeah, like because of tech communities, it was the stimuli or the opportunity for me to understand how diverse backgrounds in it and how helpful it really was. So at the time when I was beginning, I really was had like a limited idea of what programming can do. But through tech communities, like I was able to learn that you can use it in very diverse backgrounds, and that helped really me a lot. So that helped me a lot. And another thing that tech communities helped me a lot was the idea of it being in good supporting groups. So I think that's a normal thing in reality, I guess, where, of course, when you're working with fellow people or with people with fellow mindsets, it also helps us develop more as a person. So yeah, if I were to go back again in time, what I would told myself was I think he would have should have joined a tech community since that would have allowed me to better understand and gain a better background of different things. And another good thing about it was you can just like simply ask a person on existing difficulties that you have. So one of the more challenges that I was getting started was the diversity of the packages and the skill sets that you need. So if I knew or I just asked from a tech community person that pandas existed, I wouldn't have to build like my own simple Python filter. So yeah, like just having people um, available for asking like simple questions on how you could get started or what good libraries that you could use is already good in itself. And having at least people with similar mindsets allows for further collaboration and more projects and the ideas. So also through Python Philippines, I was able to gain a better idea of possible projects that I can do and find people that I can collaborate with. So that's how I would tell my past self that just join a tech community since the benefits really outweighs the cons in itself. So yeah, like that's how much it really changed me as a person. Like it helped me communicate more, it helped me have better opportunities, and yeah, I think that's roughly it for me. Yeah, for about tech communities anyways.
Nice. Yeah, that's a lot about tech communities. Thank you for sharing about that. So aside from the tech communities, what are some of the other advices that you would give to students who are similar at your age? Well, maybe some advices that are related to tech communities as well. But yeah, what are some of the advices that you would give to students who are around your age who maybe just got started with programming, maybe just got started with Python, maybe haven't gone to any of these tech community events and have pretty limited knowledge about programming, just got started, what advices would you give to them?
Work on very quirky projects. So I guess what I mean by that is what really helped for me as a person. Well, I don't know if it will work for everyone, but problems in itself are formed by, or you can see the relevance on something, or try to learn a better skill if you can find the relevance in it. So for me, I was able to learn programming more was just because I was able to find it useful and not really just for a industry context or when I'm working. I find it really cool that I can really just use it for any problem that I interact with. So though I haven't actually done this, but some of my problems in the past was actually finding better ways to record meeting sessions. So let's go with that example. So at university, like I have like 3 to 5 classes, and like there's a lot of things to note. And there are some times that I need like a recording of the video session. Um, but an issue that I always gain, or I always get into context, is how I can't really record completely everything. So I can read, like, for example, what if my camera shuts down or what if my laptop shuts down? So that's a problem that I had, like, as I go into university, and I need like a recording of most stuff. And another issue that arises is the diversity of platforms that most of my professors are using. So some use Zoom, some use Google Meets, and some use whatever. So, and OBS in itself can do most of this stuff, or like any video recording software. But a problem that I encountered was how can I record these sessions easily when, like, for example, if my laptop went out or something. So, an initial idea that I had was really just like have like another separate machine to record it, but I wanted to configure it in a way where it can automate sessions or just find good snippets of the recording in itself. So, those were the ideas that arise from me. Like, it's just simple problems in day-to-day lives. And knowing that you can solve this through programming is how it really just motivates me to work on it. So yeah, like I guess that's the roughly the advice. Just work on different projects that or different problems that you're interested in, and try to find a way where you can use programming in it. So yeah, and I guess that's how I build as well the other projects that I did. So I guess that's another example. I had like an issue where at my time or after the COVID, one of our greatest issues was identifying how people felt in regards to the COVID situation, or identifying what they need at that time. So actually, for context, I guess this is a good thing as a flashback as well, or as an example. Um, but at the COVID situation, there was a time where we had like stranded students in their dorms. So there are some students in dormitories that was stranded in the COVID-19 situation, since it was a bit sudden as well in the Philippines. So a major issue in that time was most of the students were actually trapped in their dorms and cannot buy the needed necessities. So one of the most, I guess, memorable thing that I did was this problem in itself. So of course we would thought it's a very huge problem. So I used programming at that time and a bit of data analysis to gain or to like understand from paragraphs of their statements. So like we passed like a small form for that day, and we analyzed in that paragraphs what they truly need and their sentiments or emotions at that time. So we were able to better identify what they would need, what their emotions was in regards to the COVID situation, better identify what they truly need. And I guess for context at that time, I think there was roughly 20,000 students. So yeah, I think you would still need like a bit of programming in that spec. Just find a problem that you're genuinely interested in and try to find a way that you can use programming. And I think that really helped me at the most. So yeah.
Awesome.
Cool.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Working on projects that you actually really care about, either it's useful or it's quirky. As long as it's something that you really care about or you really love, and you try to build it, and then from that process, you in order to conquer your problem, you sort of learn the tools in order to conquer that problem, and that just improves how you program. That's definitely a great advice. Yeah. Thank you so much. I think that is it for our interview. Thank you for sharing with us about all of the things that you're working on. Yeah. So thank you very much for joining us. Is there any final words that you want to say to the audience?
Um, I hope everybody works on a lot of quirky projects. And I guess let me just give us a very small reminder that hopefully, I guess, somewhat it stands with the audience, is how I think we just need to remember that Python can be used for almost anything, and it's for any audience. And join a tech community if you have one, or build your own, since I think that would be a good thing as well. If you don't have one, just build a tech community on your own. It might be a bit simple, a lot of fun in it. Programming in itself can be fun if you're working on quirky projects or things you just want to work on. Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's me for it. Yeah.
Yeah. Join PyCon APAC 2022. Yeah. Thank you for sharing with us. Well, we are very grateful to have you here. Thank you so much for your time. I think that will be it.
Cool. Thank you as well. I'm very glad to be here. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody, for listening to the talk. Now this is going to be the Q&A session. Well, first of all, hi. Hey, Carl, how are you doing?
Yeah. Hello. Again. So, very interesting to hear about that talk. But yeah, so I'm just fine.
Yeah, very interesting experience for me as well. Hearing a pre-recorded talk of or some of the talk by myself, and yeah, it's a very interesting experience. All right, so let's jump into the Q&A session. All right, so the first question out here. Oh, okay. So the first one is the blue one on the top. So yeah, so you're a student. You're working part-time for a startup. You're building a lot of projects. You're volunteering for tech communities. Seems like there's a lot going on for you, and also from the previous emails that we were going back and forth. You also mentioned about you're working on a thesis. So yeah, it seems like you have a lot of stuff going on. What's a typical day for you like? It feels like you're a very busy person. What's a typical day for you like?
Yeah, I guess that's like a good question. So I guess for me, like the typical day is like, so I think I usually start at 6 or 7 a.m. in our time. And then like I
Wow.
spend like 10 to 15 minutes like preparing the stuff I want to do. So like I guess like a good hobby that I learned from like some of my coworkers or like some of my friends is that like for the entire day, like before they start their day, like they try to time block everything they're gonna do as much as possible. So like I do that initially in the day, and sometimes I work like at my startup company at like the morning or afternoon, and then at the rest of the day, like I attend like the necessary classes I have to attend for university. And then if there's like a little bit time, I tend to like either just like try to think of anything fun more to do. So it could be like just watching or like hearing about like other cool tech stuff in the industry right now, or other cool stuff being invented, or really just like hearing about other cool stories in tech. So I think that's usually my day to day. I guess it does differ from weekends and weekdays. So if weekdays it's more like that as I described, but in weekends it tends to be more relaxed, and like I guess I spend like my time just finding something quirky to do. And usually it falls off in like just working on like a project that I had in like my list of projects that I wanted to do. So yeah, or just like learning something new in tech. So I guess that's the usual day and week for me. Yeah. So hopefully that answers the question.
Nice, nice. That's amazing. I'm pretty amazed by waking up at 6 a.m. And have some plan for the day. I think that's really that's amazing. I because for me, I'm like the procrastinator, and so I always
Yeah.
wake up right before the meeting started for the first meeting of my day. So especially after COVID. So I thought
Yeah.
that was really amazing, and that's definitely uh, part of how you're able to achieve so much stuff. Um, yeah, and so this sort of a related question to that is like, how do you balance between all these multiple things? Because it seems like a lot of these things are uh, should be taking a lot of time. How do you balance between them? And do you ever feel tired for managing all these different things?
Yeah. Well, I guess to be fair, like I'm not really like the most like greatest time manager at all. Like some of the people I know. So like even if I time block it, I sometimes don't even follow it. So like
Mm,
that's one of my bad things. And yeah, like I guess it's yeah. Hopefully I'm not procrastinate. Well, I think in the last few weeks I did procrastinate as well. And then I guess to answer the question, yeah, that's why I answered as well since it's somewhat related to my current answer. Like I admit to myself that when I do like feel tired, like I just say that I am tired and like I don't try to force myself. So like yeah, that's also the reason why I sometimes don't follow like my time blockings and stuff. So I guess like that's how I try to balance it. Like try to just admit when like a day is like bad for you or you're just tired, like just rest. And like try to after you rest, like try to reallocate your workload to fit the needs of the day or try to allocate it at the next day. So I think that's how I maintain my progress and how I can handle multiple things. Like I always just do continuous reassessments and continuous time management at my best flexibility, though it's sometimes more or less doesn't really work, but it does work in some instances. So yeah, hopefully that answered the question as well.
I see. One a few takeaways I got is like, well, you have the time blocking for your stuff, but you also admit that you are tired when you are actually tired, so not to force yourself. And I believe also that sort of helps you to adjust how you time block things, and I think
Yeah.
that's a very healthy mentality. That's awesome. Thanks for answering
Yeah.
that.
Cool.
Um, yeah. All right. So the next question right here. Um, how did you initially get the chance to work as a developer at the startup that you are currently working at? I think the startup that you're currently are you still working there?
Actually, no longer. I'm no
No
longer
longer.
like working like the first startup that I worked with. So like I'm working with another startup right now.
Oh, really? I see. So in the time of during the time of recording the interview and today, it's like there's a transition.
Yeah.
Oh, nice, nice. Okay. Are you comfortable sharing with the new company that you were working at?
Uh, Sorry. I guess like for clarity. Sorry. So I think what I mean is like I'm still working in the same startup, but
Oh,
it's still like somewhat different. Like I'm still working in the same startup, but sorry, like I'm still working in the same startup, but I'm just doing different things as well. So like
oh,
we're
I see.
we're
You're working on different. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, I see. I see. I see. Yeah. Um, well, that's a interesting follow up question, but that's the question here is well, how did you initially get the chance to work as a developer here? So how did this entire thing get started?
Yeah. So I guess like just to re-clarify, like I think I misunderstood the question. But yeah, I think the first startup that I work with is not like the first. So like the previous startup that I worked with was like already finished. So I think that was a year ago. And then I'm working now in like a new startup. And I got into that startup by just like applying. So yeah, well, for context, like I applied there because like I was interested in like the stuff they're working on. So I think some of the stuff they were working on was on AI stuff and some geospatial stuff at the side. So I think those were like some of the key things that I was interested in. So that's why I applied there. And I'm having fun time right now there. So yeah, like that's really just how I got into it. Like I just applied, and I think it was really just like matching interest for both the company and me. So yeah, yeah.
Nice, nice. And so you said like you switched to working on a different stuff, although in being in the same company. Uh, do you want to share a little bit about like what did you work on, and what are you currently working on, and did you wanted to switch to the new sort of position? What's the
Um,
motivation?
yeah, I guess like yeah, I guess for context, like I didn't really transition to like another new company. It's more of like I'm working on new stuff in another organization that is not really, I guess, like a company. So like it's more of like a new how do I term it? Like a new outreach activity
I see.
or like a new yeah, like student organization activity.
I see. I see.
So yeah, like that's also like some of the time, some of that's also somewhere of my time allocates as well. So yeah, I well, yeah, it's somewhat like a student organization as well. So
I
yeah,
see. I see. I see. Well, speaking of students, the next question is: are you interested in academia? Uh, is there any particular domain that you're interested in?
yeah, that's actually an interesting question. Well, I guess it's like one of my thoughts as well. So I think if we like to hear again about the talk, like I did notice or added that I was very interested in like working on research and like computer science as well. So I guess some of the like interested domains is like some of it is either like geospatial stuff. So like one of the interested intersections at the moment in research that I'm interested in is about geospatial, like the intersection of geospatial data and computer science. So like applying either machine learning and like geospatial data, or trying new ways to like innovate the field of geospatial. So I think that's like some of my interested research interests. So I think another one is like currently I'm more interested in I guess like the application side, but in the future I do try to like if there's like the possibility of like also intersecting with other more theoretical sides of computer science. So that could go into like either automata theory or its other intersections. So yeah, well let's see. At the moment I'm really undecided, but it's like one of the stuff that I'm interested as well, pursuing maybe in the near future. So yeah.
Nice, nice. What motivated you to be interested in either the geospatial side and also the theoretical side, the automated uh, theory?
Yeah. I guess like for me, currently the most interested thing for me in like I guess doing life stuff or working on the industry is like I'm always like interested in like working on social impact projects. So I think based from like what I knew now and how I explored some parts of the industry, like I'm gaining more idea of like how geospatial data and some parts of theoretical computer science can actually solve some of our major problems. So I guess like because of my interest in social impact projects, that led me to be interested as well in these two research fields due to the fact of how it has the capabilities to solve major problems that we have in the world. So yeah, so I guess that's how I got into research as well and how I got into those two specific fields of interest. Yeah.
Nice, nice. Um, Awesome. That's sort of also kind of a nice segue. That's slightly related to the next question. So, what are some of your future plans in your mind, and like these things could be, some of the projects that you want to work on or your career plans. Yeah, what are some of the things in your mind?
Um, well, I don't really have a lot of specifics in mind in terms of plans, but I guess like the most obvious one is I do like plan to finish university first. Um, so so that's probably like the most obvious one. Um, and then I think the second one is, well, maybe it really depends. So like actually that's like a common topic of like most of my peers now. Like, will you be going into academia or are you interested in like pursuing more of the industry stuff? Um, I can't really say like a given one now since like it has both fields has its pros and cons. So
Yeah.
I'm not really sure. But like what's at least sure in terms of my future plans is I'll probably just be working more on social impact work that could be either in academia or the industry, and I'll probably just be working on either related fields of computer science. So that's at least like the sure one, and
I
like yeah,
see.
finishing university. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a little bit disappointed that you're not saying that you're going to work from the North Pole. Yeah, which is, yeah, excellent segue to the next question. Do you have any plans to work in a similar place as well, like the North Pole, as a coder or data scientist there?
Yeah. Well, I don't really have any plans yet. That's for sure. Uh, but who knows? Like the North Pole is a very interesting place. Like as as we talk like in work from home Pythonista event in that episode, it was very interesting to like hear about there are actually ongoing projects on that could be related to computer science or like programming in like the North Pole. So, but yeah, I guess if like some of the parts work out and like if I'm still working on like either social impact project or like change related stuff, since like stuff involving like climate change or like the intersection of using computer science and climate change to solve problems in that field is actually also one of my interests. So who knows? Like since like the North Pole could be like a place that could um, have problems in related to climate change, since like due to like some of the existing issues there. Um, who knows? So like if there's like a sudden social impact project that is related to the North Pole and I have the opportunity to actually go there, then yeah, maybe. But at the moment I really can't see it yet, so hopefully that somewhat answers the question.
Nice. How about some the new quirky projects that you want to work on?
uh
Any new ones of them?
well, yeah. Well, I guess like one of the newer ones is like something I'm actually somewhat interested to like pursue in. So like one of the like quirky ideas that I had like as I was like hearing the talk. So like yeah, I wanted to like as well like at the end like somewhat share a new like quirky idea, but there's like not really a very ongoing one, but like one of the thoughts that I'm interested in doing now is like trying to generate career paths or like special career paths for like in our field or industry. So like if you want to become like a software engineer, like what are the possible like trajectories or like pathways you can take. So I guess like visualizing that is like the new quirky side project that I'm thinking on working on. So yeah, like just like visualizing what could be the different paths you could take. So I guess that's like one of them. And then I guess like one of the more fun ones was trying to find like an so yeah, like I remember like reading about this article where they shared about finding the perfect place to date. So in my mind, again, like this is another flashback. um yeah, so I think the another project that I'm working on is thinking about how like finding an optimal place to like hang out with friends. So like if you're given like 3 to 5 people, what place can you find is the most optimal for everyone in terms of like traveling distances? So I guess that's like another quirky project that I'm working on in related to geospatial. But yeah, I guess
Nice.
hopefully that somewhat answers the question. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, these are both very interesting. Nice to hear that. Awesome. I think we're kind of running out of time. This is a very great Q&A session. It's a great chat. So I hope everybody enjoys it. I hope you enjoyed it, Carl.
Very enjoyable.
And thank you for joining us. We're appreciate that you joined us. All right.
Yeah, thanks as
We'll
well
hand
for
this
this.
back to All right, we'll hand this back to the host.
Okay, thank you all for participating in the PyCon APEC 2022 Young Inspires session day 1. Let me share some information about PyCon APEC 2022 here. PyCon APEC 2022 will be held on September 3rd to 4th, totally virtual. So wherever you are, you can join us there. PyCon APEC is a worldwide gathering of the Python community. The annual meeting also serves as a platform for Python professionals to exchange ideas, experiences, and the latest developments, as well as host various speech topics. The conference is held on multiple virtual platforms. All speeches are live streamed on YouTube, while attendees are encouraged to join our GatherTown and Discord space. The GatherTown platform allows attendees to participate in our special events and meet with sponsors, speakers, and other Python enthusiasts. This is an overview of an open space of our event, GatherTown. We'll hold Pi Nights, talks, tutorials, and sprints here. Maybe you are not in Taiwan, but you still can be affected by Taiwan cultures when listening to keynote speeches or joining talks and tutorials. You can meet new friends and exchange Python and industry experience in here during the virtual Taiwan trip. We have 4 amazing keynote speakers this year. The first speaker is Dustin Ingram, director at the Python Software Foundation. The second speaker is Dr. Vijender, associate professor at Institute of Data Science, National Cheng Kung University. The third speaker is Iqbal Abdallah, founder and CEO of La Loca Labs. And the 4th speaker's information will be online in the near future. If you join the PyCon APEC 2022, we'll prepare a mysterious and delicate gift package. Want to know what is inside? Go grab a ticket. The regular tickets are now available till August 1st. You can still have one now. The detailed information of the tickets will be on the PyCon APEC 2022 official website. Also be aware that in the same time next week, we'll have 2 sessions, 3 speakers in the Young Inspirers. The session will all be in Mandarin. We're looking forward to see you all next week on Young Inspirers for more inspiring talks. Thank you all again for participating in the PyCon APEC 2022 Young Inspires Day 1 session. Hope you enjoy the sessions today. And don't forget to leave us comments in the questionnaire. The link is on the left-hand side by scanning the QR code. Hope to see you in the Young Inspires next week and in the PyCon APEC 2022 on September 3rd and 4th, 2022. Bye-bye.